Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another installment of Flyera, our 56th episode. We got a good one for you this week. We're going to go over last week's game. A little bit better of a week than opening week for sure. More wins and losses. That's always a plus. I think I went 3-0 in my predictions, if I remember correctly. I think I picked them to win the first two of them and lose one, and I think I got it to a T. But we'll look back at that at the time. But yeah, we're going to go over everyone's the three games from last week. Owen Tippett has been appearing in some trade rumors over the last couple days. And there's news that the Flyers might be trying to add a top four defenseman to this blue line, which could be a good add. But with Tippett, how he's playing right now, maybe they end up having some second thoughts. We'll go over that some more as well. And last but not least, Tocchet. These lines. We need to talk about them. We need to talk about just the coaching in general. We'll go over that and more. This is going to be a good episode. So everyone get ready. We got another good episode of Flyer coming your way. As usual, I'm Alex Fournette. One of my two awesome co-hosts is with me joining today. The man to my bottom right-hand corner. You know him. You love him. Mr. Eric Martino. How you doing today, bud?
Not too bad, Alex. You know what? Like I said, it was a pretty good week, everything considered. 2 out of 3 wins. Was it the most convincing or prettiest wins? No, but you know what? At least it's a little building block.
Yeah, listen, 2 in 1 week. It's a good week, at least on the outside looking in. We've got some questions still, though. Quite a bit of them. But let's go into these games. We'll be starting with Florida. Flyers won this game 5-2. This game, they came out of the gates hungry, it looked like. They played with a lot of tenacity. They played physical. They matched Florida's physicality, too. Florida came into this game 3-0. So that's just something to remember. A little bit of back and forth action to begin until Tyson Forster sniped one. Top right-hand corner, I believe it was, to get the Flyers a 1-0 lead after one. Then not too much later, Konechny sprung Couturier in the second period to lead on to a breakaway to go up 2-0. Then the Flyers power play that we all love and adore so much started to show cracks from last year, and that is not a good thing. Shorthanded goal, I believe, was it Sam Reinhart, I think, for Florida that scored the shorty on kind of a broken play behind the net. He ended up burying a second chance, beating, I think it was Vladar to make it 2-1.
Yeah, it was
the third period, the Florida Panthers showed why they are the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And they came with a full-octane blast to open that period, getting opportunity after opportunity. It felt like the entire first half of that third period was spent in the Flyers zone until the dam finally collapsed, and Florida ended up burying one to tie it at 2. Then, up to this point of the season, what I have to say is the play of the year for the Philadelphia Flyers, Trevor Zegras, behind the net in a 2-2 tie with about 4 minutes to go, taking 2 defenders at the body, squeaks by them and hits a beautiful backhand pass between, I think it was Forsling and another defenseman for Florida. I think it was Luosterainen. I can't remember exactly who it was off the top of my head. But he found Sean Couturier for a beautiful one-timer on the top right-hand corner of the net. Beats a goalie to make it 3-2. Flyers added 2 empty netters, including what might be the funniest goal here, where Christian Dvorak redirected an empty netter to make it 5-2. But Flyers put up a 5 spot in that game, getting their first one of the year. Cool little memento at the end of the game, too, in the locker room with the Flyers this year with that little victory celebration they have in the locker room. Bernie Perrant mask. That was a cool little touch. I love that, too. Dan Vladar was definitely player of the game in that game. Eric, how about you? What's your breakdown on the game against Florida?
Yeah, no, I actually thought the Florida game was probably the best game the Flyers have played so far this year. I thought like all 3 lines were buzzing, all 3 lines were going. You know, I was a little bit concerned after the first 2 games. Not too concerned, like they looked fine after the first 2 games, but like, you know what? That like Florida game is like, okay, you know, we got something cooking here. Like I mentioned, like Sean Couturier on the last episode, Sean Couturier was starting to become a little bit concerning because like he really didn't look good the first 2 games. He busted off for 4 points against Florida, so Dan Vladar is solid again. Right, what can we say, man? I think we actually got something here. So, like, I know, like, yeah, the Zegras play. That's why we acquired someone like Zegras. Like, there is, other than maybe Mishkov, possibly Konechny, who on this team can make that play?
No.
Probably nobody. Probably not. Just the vision, the poise that he had behind the net, knowing that Bennett and Ekblad are coming to crush you, and like I don't know how much weight and size disparity there was there, but somehow just, and you know what's funny is I actually showed that play to my son. My son is like 7 years old. I'm like, see, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. Like he saw them coming, turned his back to them as like protecting the puck by the boards, just turning. And I don't know if, like, look, I want to think that was planned, that he saw Coots or whatever, or if it was just some kind of desperation pass. But even at that, just putting it where somebody could be, that's just a great play. That is a heads up hockey IQ, just beautiful play. And if we could see more of that out of Zegras, oh man, we, like I said, we got something cooking there. So no, but yeah, no. And look, I thought they played really well. The third period, I thought, they were a bit on their heels. But again, that's just Florida, like showing, what Florida can do. And at the end of the day, the Flyers are trying to protect the lead. So it's like, let's just play some shutdown hockey. That's what it looks like. Just make them shoot from wherever they want, just not the slot, not the middle. And you know what? But at the end of the day, hey, we got the victory. And just quick on the Dvorak tip, I don't know, and again, I'm probably wrong, but I honestly thought that it looked like the puck might actually go wide, just like past the post. So like that's why I wasn't. But then I saw it on replay. I think it probably was.
Yeah, I think it was still stuck on the left side of the net. I think that was going in regardless.
But you know what? Like, yeah, like it's funny. It's like, okay, well, like the fuck you doing, bro? Like, just let it go and maybe get the rebound if ever, But like, you know what? He secured it. He made 100% sure that it went in the net. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, no, and yeah, with like the birdie mask, that's just pure beauty. Like that's fucking. I forget. I think it was Tocchet that was on. He was on. Oh man, the sheet with Jeff Marek or something. One of I think that, and he was talking. He asked him about it, and apparently Tocchet knew nothing about this. He's like, yeah, no, like I'm like, Sanheim just took it out. It's like, oh, this is the new thing. And he's like, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. It's like not a guy like not someone like Tocchet who has like ties into like the organization, who like probably knew Bernie from the past and everything. But like our captain Sean Couturier like comes out with the mask, like just understanding, like getting the point. And like, and it's beautiful. Honestly, I loved it. I really loved it.
And you know what? It just shows how tightly knit this locker room is at the end of the day. That's the most underrated. Say what you want about John Tortorella. I will always give him credit for making this a healthy locker room again when he was here a couple of years ago, because it was an absolute mess in 21-22. That, in my opinion, is the worst Flyers team of all time. I think that was worse than 06-07, because especially of how long this mess is going to be just in general. But the 21-22 Flyers team was an absolute albatross. Torts came in and made this locker room healthy and gave Tocchet at least a team that all liked each other still. They got rid of the bad eggs, and it's a team that likes each other. And it shows what little things like this little memoir to Bernie Perron, all the guys just being there for one another, just showing each other like how much they respect this organization and respect one another as a collective whole. It's small gestures like that I don't know if you would have saw 3-4 years ago just in general. And I'm so happy for small things like that still just being shown ever since Hoperty took over with this organization, bringing back the ties of what Flyers hockey is meant to be. But not only that, like back to the game itself, the things that really stood out, Couturier definitely, as you mentioned, his best game of the year so far, buried that breakaway on that Konechny pass. The Zegras play, obviously, he has been an assist machine so far. 5 games played, 4 apples. Still looking for that first goal here, but he's been what you've been expecting. And him and Tippett have been clicking together just as a collective whole. They look like a duo that has found some chemistry. And I didn't think Zegras would be playing with Tippett just in general. I thought it'd be at the hips of Konechny or at the hips of Mitchkov. But no, the guy he's been really clicking with so far is Owen Tippett. Now, will that be a long-term thing? That's something we can go over as the year goes on. But in these first 5 games, those two have definitely found some good chemistry. And Travis Sanheim, man, again, continues to be a minutes-eating warrior. I think he had like another 26, 27-minute game that game. And this was the game before Cam York came back. So that's something that is worth noting, that Sanheim continues to be the ironclad defenseman in that blue line. And another thing, I was very happy to see Emil Andre get called up for that game, and he looked like he was not out of place at all. Unfortunately, it was his only game here before he got sent down when Cam York came back. I think there are more deserving guys that should be taken out of the lineup. Or some more. Oh, sorry, I had a call. My bad. But, I'm happy that Andre called upon, had a good game, looked comfortable out there, didn't make any mistakes. And honestly, hopefully he does get another shot here, assuming these trade talks don't merit into anything, which they could. We'll get into that a little later in the show. But hopefully if he does stay here, he gets the opportunity to play on this team consistently and even on the power play, which still looks like it's having its issues. But anything else on the Florida game before we move on to the Winnipeg game?
No, well, like you said, I think Emil Andre looked really good in that game, even in his limited minutes. Same here. Like, I just don't understand why they took him out of the lineup.
Yeah, I have to say, it's definitely something that needs to be looked at more thoroughly, that he gets more opportunities for sure. We'll see what happens down the line. But anyway, let's move on to Winnipeg. This game was ass. Best way I can put it, ass. Where the Flyers played probably their best game of the year against Florida, they probably played their worst game of the year against Winnipeg. 17 shots on net is not cutting it. And it was a game that they came out of the gates okay, and then Winnipeg just wore them the hell down. I think they had 3 shots in that first period, if I remember correctly. Something bad like that. I don't even remember if they had 10 after 2 periods. They just were not getting pucks on net. All 4 line. I think Owen Tippett was probably the only guy that really showed up from a consistent manner. He did get the Flyers within 1 to make it 2-1 at one point after Winnipeg potted 2. And I got to say, Urson looked bad in this game. He looked bad. Not every goal was his fault, but there's 2 that I looked at that he should have made, especially that second goal. He gets beat short side from probably about 20, 25 feet out on an unscreened shot. You need a save there, man, especially when the opposition only puts on 15 shots on net. If there's one positive I will take out of this game, is that defensively they didn't allow a lot of shots, but they got to save the shot. I mean, Urson's got to make some stops on the opportunities they do get. The second goal was an absolute back-breaking softie. The third goal, it was kind of a mixed bag. He was a little bit out of position, but there was a guy right in front next to him in the point blank that kind of just had a tap-in goal that the defenseman could have probably did a better job knocking out. Maybe Urson could have played that shot a little bit better to try to knock it out of the zone to even prevent that opportunity from happening. So it's kind of a mixed bag. Fourth goal wasn't on him at all. First goal wasn't on him at all. But still, you need your goalie to make some saves occasionally, especially when he's not facing that many shots. But yeah, another positive take out of Matvei Mitchkov finally got on the scoreboard. A nice snipe late in the game. The game was out of reach at that point, but he did beat Hellebuck on a beauty of a snipe top right corner on the rush. Who would have thought Noah Juleson would have been the guy to give him his first setup of the year? Who had that on the bingo card? But yeah, overall, flat game. A lot of guys just didn't show up. Travis Konechny looked terrible that game. Absolutely terrible. I'm starting to get worried about him, but we'll get a little more in depth on that in general as we go on with the show. Eric, what was your take on that Winnipeg game?
Look, for me, the theme of that game was turnovers. Like, we could not stop turning over the puck. Like, and it's not like, okay, 1 or 2 guys. The whole team was turning the puck over constantly. And again, something that will come up later when we talk about the lines and everything. And like it sucked because Luchenko and Grabenkin both had a turnover that led to a goal against.
Mhm.
Although the Luchenko one, I'm sorry, you want to put that on Luchenko because he turned it over at the blue line, fine. But why are Sealer, Drysdale, and I forget who the third guy was? There was a forward. They were 1, 2, 3, right in front of the goalie with Nemestikov right behind them. Nobody, not one of the three, decided, hey, let's go take this guy. And guess what? He gets the puck and then causes a little mayhem around the net, spits
Mhm.
out, and it's a goal against. Like, fine, you want to put that on Luchenko because he turned the puck over like 30 seconds before, fine. But I'm sorry, but like there's other things that happen after that that were bigger factors to a goal against. But then we're gonna pin that on Luchenko. Like, no, I'm sorry. That for me is like that's stupid. Especially when you have the rest of the team that's turning the puck over just as much as he did, and then we're gonna pin this up. Like, no, I'm sorry. The Gerbenke one too. Like, look, he's got to play that better off the boards. Like, he seemed like he wasn't like, how am I gonna like? You know when your mind just like freezes for that split second because you're like, wait, is it going off the boards? Do I take it off the or do I take it on the backhand? It's like, and then it's like it's there, and then you're like, oh shit. But anyway, whatever. But no, that game again, that's one of those games where you just take that and you just like let's
Flush down the
blast
toilet.
this into the sun. Like forget it. The whole team played terrible. No,
Mhm.
nobody played well other than Tippett. Again, other than Tippett, I thought Tippett, other than game one, I think every game since he's been flying. So good for him. That's one positive I could take from that game. When it comes to Urson for that game, yes, I think the second goal maybe he could have had. The other ones, I'm not gonna put totally on him, especially when the team is just playing like ass in front of you. So, but the thing with Urson that's starting to bother me a lot more, and this is why I'm starting to lean maybe this guy's more of a backup than a starter, is
Mhm.
that just give me that one save. Give me that one save. That like I
Yes.
get it. Okay, should that have been a goal? Yeah, okay, whatever. But you're like, no, but just like make that one save. You know, keep us in the game because that's what starters do. They'll give you that one or two saves that are like, oh, that maybe should have been a goal, but ends up, he saves
They
it. So,
stop. Yeah.
and that's the issue right now with Urson is he just can't give you that one save that could maybe change momentum or, so that's why I think, well, right now, like, I'm sorry, but Dan Vladar has the floor. Like,
Oh, for sure. There's
they've been
no real
splitting.
argument about that at all. The way he's
Yeah,
been
no, look,
playing lately.
if they want to go 2 or 4 more games where they go 1-1-1-1, okay, whatever, fine. But I think by the end of the month, or yeah, exactly, yeah, by the end of the month, I think Vladar is gonna take the crease and run with it, and he'll
Mhm.
probably end up getting the bulk of the starts because he's just been unbelievable. So yeah, no. Other than that, honestly, I have really nothing to say about that Winnipeg game other than it was just blasted right into the sun.
It's the fact that not only were they not turning the puck over constantly, they were not sustaining any offensive pressure whatsoever. It
No,
just
none.
felt like anytime they got the puck into the offensive zone, they would either just working around the boards or a turnover would happen, as you just mentioned, or any shot attempts they would get blocked or went wide. It just felt like everything was not clicking. They could not sustain any true offensive pressure that
Mm,
entirety of the game. And as I mentioned, like the first period, they only had 3 shots.
yeah.
That's not exactly a great way to set your team up through the majority of that game. Now, mind you, again, Flyers are in the box. I believe they had 4 penalties that game,
Mm,
too. I believe at least 2 of them came in the first period, if I remember correctly. But you need to give your team an opportunity to build some momentum. And that's one thing that I point to, too, is they just seem like they're always in the box. And
Actually, sorry,
they
quick,
just can't.
Alex, quick. We only took one penalty that game against
Really?
Winnipeg. We only took one penalty. Trevor
Oh,
Zegras
you
in the
know what?
third.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the next game. They took 4 the next game against Minnesota. That's my bad. I take the blame for that. Yes, they did only take 1 penalty in the Winnipeg game. My bad on that. They actually that game they penalties weren't the issue. That game they just couldn't sustain the offensive pressure. But they've got to find a way to just keep the puck in the offensive zone more, and they have to find a way to just sustain offense too. And that game they really just didn't at all. Um, Nothing more really needs to be said. Thank you for clarifying that for me. My
Yeah.
bad. I got the games mixed up there for a moment. So, anything else to add before we move on to the third and final game of the week?
Yeah, no, I just want to say also, like, I think Winnipeg also played a pretty ugly game too. Like, I don't think that look, at a game that we didn't take that many shots, we still outshot Winnipeg 17-15.
It was ugly, yeah.
So I
That's why I
can't
said I thought the defensive structure was actually half decent. They
yeah,
weren't letting Winnipeg get many opportunities on net, but there were some decent quality bids when they got those opportunities for sure.
yeah, and honestly, like I find like that whole game was pretty much just played in the neutral zone, and then like whenever it did go into an offensive zone, whether us or Winnipeg, it was a lot of one and done. And
Hmm.
again, like a lot of Winnipeg's goals came off of turnovers or broken plays. So it's like Winnipeg literally just ended up capitalizing on whatever opportunity they actually ended up getting, and we didn't. That's that's honestly how I see that game, because even just quickly on like the like on Money Puck, like I don't know if people like know this, but like there's this thing called the deserve to win-o-meter. Like I know
Yeah,
it's stupid, but we lost that game, but technically, like Money Puck has us at 51.5% of winning that game
it
out of
was
like a
ugly.
thousand
Yeah,
times. You know, it's like
the
so
deserve a winnow I think is more just based off of metrics and pace of
yeah,
play and just opportunities teams get. There's a lot of analytics involved in it for sure,
yeah.
but it's a little bit more based off of just puck control and the analytics on it as well.
Yeah, but like just to say, like I don't think Winnipeg played that great of a game either,
No.
and I don't think we were dominated by Winnipeg. It's just that I thought it was just an ugly game that
That's
like
what it
both.
really came down to as well. I agree with that. They
Yeah,
just played an ass game just in general. The Owen Tippett, as you mentioned, he played solid. I think the defensive structure was okay, but they, like you mentioned, Urson needs to make a save occasionally. That's what my big issue comes in with him. He
hmm
does not make that big save for you when you need it. The second goal, he's got to make a save there. That's one we talk about. He needs to make a save. Third, the first and fourth goal, I give him no blame. The first goal, he made the original save. It was a bit of a rebound. I think Drysdale was a bit out of position that led to kind of a tap in into an empty net. That one was kind of more on Drysdale. The third goal, there was, like I said, there was a guy in front of the net, but Urson could have potentially played that shot a little bit differently, came out a little more and played the angle better to potentially kick it off to the boards. But it's just one of those things. You got to make a save occasionally for this team if you want to give them a chance when they're playing sloppy games like that. And at the end of the day, 10 for 14 in net, even if only two of them I'd say were either his fault or somewhat his fault, ain't cutting. Got to make a save occasionally for the team. Anything else to add before we move on to the last game?
Nah, that's it.
All right, final game of the week. Minnesota. Last night's game as we're recording this. So this game was weird. Flyers did come out with a 2-1 win, positive. And they came out in the first period, as we talked about off screen. I think they actually came with a little bit of juice, a little bit of mustard. They had a late power play in that first period to kind of build some momentum, and you're thinking, okay, maybe they're going to bring this into the second period. I mean, there was only 7 seconds left at the time when the power play ended, but still, like the play that they had on the power play made you think maybe they could build a little bit off of this. Second period begins, and Minnesota takes complete control. Minnesota takes a 1-0 lead off of a beauty of a one-timer from Tarasenko.
That's nice.
One of those shots, he found the fountain of youth on. Nothing Vladar really could have did from that. That was almost a perfect shot. But what killed me in that period is the Flyers did not have any shots for the first, I think it was almost 14 minutes of that period before they finally put one on net. And after Minnesota had, I believe, 3 or 4 power plays that game. I think they had 3. Flyers went 3 for 3 on the kill. So
Yeah.
positive there for sure. But 3 for 3 on the power play. Minnesota had back-to-back power plays early in that second period. And the Flyers just could not find their stride after killing those 2 off. In the second power play, they were in a fire zone, it felt like. And Vladar made some big saves for them to keep it 1-0. But they were in a fire zone. And even after the power play ended, Minnesota was controlling pace, controlling play. Even the Flyers' lines were all jumbled, it felt like, during those rushes in the second period. They even mentioned on the TV, JJ and Bush both came out and said they need the TV timeout. They need a mental reset. They need a stoppage right now because this team is all over the place. They're getting killed, and Minnesota's just completely controlling play. Once they got that timeout and, play stopped in the second, they had a chance to just take a deep breath. They kind of had a little mini timeout. They kind of found their footing again. Now, mind you, at that point, they only had 6 shots through the first 34 minutes of the game. That's not cutting it. But once they found their footing a little bit, they looked better. They definitely looked better. Towards the end of the second period, they started getting some opportunities, especially in those last 2 or 3 minutes. Didn't score, but got some opportunities. Third period comes along. Zegras, again, with a beauty of a pass, sets up Tippett, who was stopped on the original shot, but then goes behind the net and banks it off and in. Owen Tippett continues to be, in my opinion, through the first 5 games, even though a lot of people have given him crap and given him trade talks, including myself. I am more than guilty of that too. I have to admit, he has been the best Flyer to the first 5 games this season. At least best forward. He has been great. Barry's a bank shot there to make it tie the game at 1. Kind of back and forth hockey from there. Matvei Michkov was again benched with about 11 minutes to play and only got a little over 12 minutes of play in that game. It is the 3rd time in 5 games he has been benched in the 3rd period. And I feel like this is starting to become a trend where Tocchet does not feel comfortable sending him out there in a tie game because he's playing more not to lose than to win at that point because he's afraid either he's going to potentially try to cherry pick a little or make a bad turnover or cheat a little offensively. I don't know how I feel about that. I know he hasn't been good. I acknowledge that overall. I do think that Winnipeg game, honestly, believe it or not, was his best game, despite how much we talked down about how much the team played. I do think in the first period of that game, he set Couturier up for some good opportunities. This game, he wasn't quite as noticeable for sure, despite the win. I thought he played pretty good in that Florida game too earlier in the week, just to mention real quick.
Yeah, he did.
But this game against Minnesota, even before the benching, he just didn't seem as noticeable. And Tocchet seems like he's got a trend going where he says that he wants to play his guys we feel like that are skating. I personally kind of get it, but at the same time, you still got, in my personal opinion, you still got to let your stars play great. And if you're going to hold Michkov to that accountability, you need to do the same for Travis Konechny because he has been bad, B-A-D, bad these first few games. If you're going to hold Matvei Michkov to that, hold Travis Konechny to the same standard because he has not been good. And that kind of just looks hypocritical. I get it. Konechny's a vet. He's pushing almost 30 now. He's been in the league longer, so he's got a longer leash. He's got an A on his jersey. He's more of a leader. That might look a little Torts-esque, benching him. But still, Matvei Michkov, pound for pound, is the most talented player on this team, and you need to give him a longer leash, in my opinion, even if some potential mistakes are made during that process. But anyway, back to the game itself. Michkov was benched. Back and forth hockey. The Flyers played a pretty stern game defensively, especially in that 3rd period. I think they held Minnesota only to like 3 or 4 shots in the 3rd, if I remember correctly. Something small. 4, exactly. 4 shots in the 3rd period. Minnesota was not getting many high-end opportunities. In fact, 3rd period, even though it was another tight checking period, I do think the Flyers outplayed Minnesota, even if you did take away the Tippett goal. We moved to overtime. Vladar makes a very risky pass to lead Drysdale onto a rush, and then a great pick by Forster. Argumentative if that was interference. I don't give a damn. We got screwed in overtime a few games prior to that against Carolina. So we deserve one back, leading to the Noah Cates snipe to eventually win it. There was a one-timer bid by Minnesota that period that I don't remember for sure. Did Dan Vladar make a stick save on that one-timer, or did that just go wide?
I swear to God, I think I rewound and watched that play like 20 times. Certain angles, I'm like, no, he got a piece. And then like certain ones, I'm like, no, that went wide. If I'm not mistaken, in the presser after the game, he said he never touched it.
Okay, so, I'll listen to the goalie then.
I don't know, but it was really, really hard to tell. I think if he would have touched it, they would have put that highlight all over the post game. So I think maybe he probably ended up, he never got a piece of it.
I thought, at first glance, I'm like, did he save that shit?
It
that looked like
stick.
First glance. He made a stick save of the year candidate. That would have been a surefire lock-in top 3 save of the year by any team out there if that was a save. I thought he may have got a piece. You're probably right, because I think, as you mentioned, they probably would have played the highlight of it constantly. But I thought he made the save originally. Maybe he didn't. But either way, just the effort he made on that play to almost stop that was great. And then he made a big save leading that rush, as we mentioned. Eric, what is your take on the Minnesota game?
Look, in that game, I thought, like you said, like first period we played well, third period we played well, second period was like, ugh. It really wasn't. They looked. I don't know what happened in that second period, because, like I said, first period they actually played well. It was very competitive. I think we even outshot Minnesota that period. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 8-3. 6-3. Sorry. But then the second period starts, and you're like, what is this team? Completely disjointed. Passes aren't like, they're not slick tape to tape. They're like, it's ending up in players' feet. It's turnovers. It was like it was a carbon copy of like fucking of that Winnipeg game. And it was bad. It was really bad. Other than like maybe like the last 4 minutes where I thought the like a switch went off, and it's like, hey guys, we're here to play a hockey game, so let's actually start playing. But yeah,
add something real quick. It wasn't just bad; it was boring.
It
felt boring. I can stuck. Bad hockey sucks. I get it, but boring hockey where you're just not seeing anything materialize and marinate out there. I hate that worse than bad hockey. It just puts. It's just like it makes you hopeless watching the product. I hate boring hockey. Sorry to interrupt. Continue.
No, but you're absolutely right. It was like it was bad with boring on top. That's what it was. It was like it was just a bad period. But again, look, Vladar, again, he's top. Like he made the save. He's doing what Ersin can't do. He's making the saves that you're not expecting him to make. And it's like, and he's giving you a chance to win every single time he's on the ice. He's giving you a chance to win. So look, was it a perfect game by the Flyers? No. This is something that's going to come up a bit later, but I think pretty much out of that whole game, there was 2 lines that were going, 2 lines that weren't. We'll get on into that a little bit later. But yeah, no, but look, we came up with the win. Big goal by Kate in overtime. Great play. Like I understand what I think, because you couldn't see it in like on the screen, but like I think Vladar, when he came out to play the puck, was trying to give an outlet pass to somebody. I just couldn't see, and I think just like it's the last second, like, oh, it's not there. So, but I'll give it to Vladar. Like if you look, he blocks the like he smartly, instead of just like trying to rush back into his net, he actually creates like a screen to block the
defender. I did notice that. Yes, that led to the 3-on-2 rush out of the break.
Exactly.
That was smart. I agree there.
So smart play by Vladar there. Didn't panic. Cool, calm, and collected in that net, man. Like I think we actually got something there.
For sure. And if you had to ask me who I think the best Flyers have been through these first 5 games, 4 guys come to mind. In no particular order: Dan Vladar, Owen Tippett, Trevor Zegras, and Noah Cates. Bobby Brink gets an honorable mention because I think he's been pretty good too. But those are the top guys. I think even Forster's been good. That whole third line continues to be great and consistent. And it's a damn what we're going to be talking about later on, because we may need to break it up in order to get some offensive push. But we'll talk more about that when we go over the lines. But as a collective whole, those guys have shown up. Those guys look like they have taken this thing by the horn so far. Through 2 games, the team is 2-2-1, and they've played well. I mean, they've played well at some points. They have not played well in others. And with that being said, let me introduce you to our third posse in our group. You know him. You love him. Mr. Jamey Bascat. Jamey, how you doing today, brother?
Hanging in, man. Had some mishaps. My son lost his first tooth, so
Congratulations
got it
to
all ready.
Noah.
Dylan actually, but the tooth fairy will
Dylan,
come
I'm
down
sorry.
tonight. The tooth fairy and I talked, and the tooth fairy will make an appearance. That's for sure.
Big news coming from the Tooth Fairy. We have heard some massive breaking news. Tooth Fairy. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong button there. Oh, let me just get out of. Okay, hold on a second. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, real quick there. Fix that. But yeah, Tooth Fairy coming tonight. Awesome to hear. Happy for Dylan. Hope he gets a big gift from the Tooth Fairy for sure.
Yeah, breaking news. That is the biggest news of the day. That's bigger than the sporting event. The Tooth Fairy will make an appearance. That's for sure. Breaking news. You heard it here first on the Flyera podcast. There is a Tooth Fairy. Unreal stuff. I personally have seen him. Beautiful person.
Beautiful, beautiful person. Tooth Fairy to make an appearance. Massive news coming up there. But yeah, let's move on to our next topic. And Jamey, let me let you lead into things. There has been some significant talk about the Flyers potentially making a possible trade. So the man of the hour that we've been talking, especially from a positive perspective, is Owen Tippett right now. And in all honesty, he has probably been the Flyers' best forward through 5 games so far. Outside of the opener, as Eric mentioned earlier in the show, he has come to play, it feels like, almost every game. Jamey, actually, before I get your opinion, I do want to bring up some rumors that have been talked about. So the first thing I want to do is bring up the trade talks from a column that Anthony DeMarco posted. So there has been some talks in Buffalo about potential names Owen Power and Bowen Byram potentially being on the move if things go south in Buffalo. Now, Buffalo has won their last 2 games, including shutting out the defending champs 3-0 yesterday. So that might put a little bit of water on that for the time being. But there has been some talk that the Flyers may have some interest in especially Bowen Byram and potentially Owen Power to bolster up this blue line a little bit. The report here from the Daily Faceoff shows Power, once viewed as a puck-moving offensive defenseman, has been buried on the Buffalo depth chart while sometimes playing out of position on the right side and being deployed questionably given his skill set. It seems like there may not be a match in Buffalo anymore based off of that. Speaking with 2 Eastern Conference executives, Power has been described as quote-unquote very soft for his size, 6'6", 226 pounds, and likes to compete. All that being said, however, still believe the talent is there. Let's start with him. Jamey, would you be interested in potentially acquiring a guy like Owen Power, and would a guy like Tippett be the guy to potentially suffice a trade like that?
I'd keep Tippett. We already know what Tippett is. I don't think that upgrades the Flyers by any means. I mean, Owen Power, no disrespect to him, but we know the potential that Tippett can be. Tippett can be a 35, 40 goal scorer if he hits the net, which he's doing now. Like you guys both mentioned, Eric brought it up. Like you said, aside from that first game, he's been the Flyers' most consistent forward, of the season. He's flying. He has that pep in his step. He has energy again. Like we noticed, not necessarily last year that we saw at times where he was very inconsistent, but the year prior he was very consistent. All he has to do is hit the net, and he's starting to find his groove. So, I wouldn't trade Tippett for Power. That's just me. I don't think that upgrades the Flyers by any means. Actually, I think you don't know what you're getting since Owen Power would be a question mark. Now, Bowen Byram, that was a guy, I talk about because I think we've talked about this on our show, the Flyers stuff. We need that. Sanheim's turning into that 1A. They need that 1B. And I think that'd be a lot of pressure to put on Cam York right now. And to alleviate some of that pressure, I think you could have a potential in Bowen Byram, of interest in Philadelphia. But I think that you're going to hear a lot of names. You're going to hear a lot of dartboards. But I think Owen Tippett is a player I think that the Flyers will dangle because he has a favorable contract to move as well. And if you really want to make a stab at Porter Martone making a team next year, if the Flyers are banking on him signing his ELC, who had a great game last night, 1 goal, 1 assist, you have to trade a winger. I think that Tocchet has fallen in love with that Brink, and that whole line there with Casey and Forster. He's reluctant to break it up where he's probably should break it up to balance out the lines at this point, but he wants to stick it together because it's so forceful. Every time they're on the ice, there seems to be something of impact, whether it's something minute, whether it's breaking up a play and going the other way and it mustering into nothing. They at least generating something, out of nothing. Does that make sense? They're still doing stuff, creativity on the ice, where the other lines are just like sort of coasting at times is what I saw, yesterday. But it's a hard measuring stick here because the Flyers have had stiff competition through the first 5 games too. I mean, they played the defending Cup champs, twice. They played a former President's Trophy team in the Winnipeg Jets, and people were in arms over that game. And the only thing I was a bit disappointed in was the lack of, I don't know, but I won't get into that, I guess. But, the Winnipeg Jets, I mean, it's a former President's Trophy team. They're getting stellar goaltending, especially from Dan Vladar, who's just been lights out, like Eric, was raving about, this whole, offseason on every single show. He's like, don't forget about Dan Vladar. He always threw that in there, although I'm skeptical. So, and, now it's only 5 games. Not that I'm skeptical anymore. I'm a believer. So, so turn me on there. Nonetheless, it's a hard measuring stick. So you're going to hear names throughout, but I don't think the Flyers are going to really muster anything until around the trade deadline. Around February, March-ish, you'll start to see if they're really making a run for the playoffs at that point. I could see Danny Briere trying to do something to acquire some sort of talent. I really think that Quinn Hughes is their guy. I think that I've always said that, you know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in that. Tocchet, that's the reason why Juleson's on the team right now, is because of his relationship and with that he has with Rick Tocchet from Vancouver. I think that if there was a guy that the Flyers would say, okay, I'm going to poke the bear and take Owen Tippett, I'm going to do this a first-round pick or maybe another first-round pick, I think Quinn Hughes would be the guy to do it. Another name in Buffalo, I guess you could, relate to is Rasmus Dahlin. You know what I mean? But I'm
still, right there.
Buffalo's 2-3. I still have Buffalo making the playoffs this year. I've never been off that train this year. You know what I mean? I really do. Yeah, I think they got a good young nucleus there. I think that they're starting to find their groove. And like I said, it's 5 games, and you saw the panic in Buffalo, fire Adams and all this stuff, and they didn't do anything, you know what I mean, the front, you know what I mean? And I think that's all just noise, just from the fans. But, now they're starting to muster some wins here. Buffalo, if they put on a 10-game winning streak here, now they're sitting at 10-3. And then what you're talking about, you know what I mean? Now you're really talking about some playoffs. That's what I'm saying. They beat stiff competition too. It's not like they didn't beat anybody. Like you said, they shut out the defending champ 3-0. Whether they had a 3 or 4 game losing streak, whether they're missing Matthew Tkachuk, whether they're missing Ekblad, it doesn't, or Barkov, I should say. Sorry, not Ekblad. But it doesn't matter who they're missing. They're still the defending Cup champs. Any way you slice or dice it, they shut out the defending Cup champs. No one saw that coming. If there's anybody here that says that they would have thought Buffalo would have shut out the defending champs after how their season got off, I would say they're liars. So that's what I'm saying. I still think that they're trying to figure their team out. I don't think they actually have an identity yet. And with that being said, I think this is just, yes, there's talks, you know what I mean? Most GMs are talking, most GMs are like, having these conversations or have. I think that the Flyers have had conversations with Buffalo for a few years now. Just like we found out, about prior trades, that the Flyers have made, that there was talk about that, for a few years, with the Ryan Ellis, contract, trying to trade Ryan Ellis's contract. They had conversations on that last year, and stuff like that. So, and finally it just got done. Some of these trades, take time. Some is just conversations, picking up the phone, Danny Briere, hey, how's your family doing today? Oh, by the way, any movement on Bowen Byram yet? But I think that the Flyers were serious about obtaining Bowen Byram. I really thought that they could have had him at the draft. And, you saw the Flyers stand pat. They had those first round draft picks there, and stuff to dangle, and they did not muster anything. I don't know. That's just my feeling.
Honestly, a lot of good breakdown there, Jamey, especially with all three Buffalo defensemen that you mentioned. Quinn Hughes, that would be insane. I don't know how realistic that would be. I know there's talks about Vancouver potentially moving on from it. It seems like New Jersey is all over that right now, but we'll see eventually. Eric, how about you? What is your thoughts about the talks with potentially moving Owen Tippett? Is this something that you'd be for, against, and what would a package for you look like?
Well, look, at the end of the day, if you want something of quality, you have to give up something of quality. So you're not going to get like an Owen Power or whoever, like any quality defenseman for like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to disparage the player, but like, let's take a Bobby Brink, like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to give something a little bit better, But look, when it comes to Byram, I have questions and I don't know. Like, maybe I would do it 1-for-1, maybe. What concerns to me about Byram is he's a bit inconsistent. Like, his points are up and down. He has a bit of an injury history. And what concerns me also is the contract. Like, he's got this year and next, and then he's a UFA.
Yeah.
So if we trade for him now, you can't extend him. You can only extend him as of July 1st. So if you're giving up a player like Tippett, who's under team control, cost control for the next, I think he's got 5 more years on his contract, whatever he has on that contract.
Yep.
Like, and you're giving up for a guy that might walk after next season. For me, that's rough because that's it. You make that trade. He comes in and he's either playing okay or whatever, and then like he doesn't like it here, and then he's like, you know what, ciao. I'm like, and then I just gave up like a really good winger, a guy with 40 goal potential for a guy that for a season and a half of somebody that ended up walking that it isn't even during our window. Because like, look, if the Flyers want to compete or like be something, like compete for a cup or something, it's not going to be now. It's not going to be next year. You're looking maybe 2 or 3 years down the road where I think the Flyers will really be competitive. But now you just wasted one of your best assets to get a guy that walks. That's what's like plus, like I said, with the injuries and everything, the inconsistency with Byram, that one scares me a little bit. If they want to do like a package with like a lesser player and picks for Byram, no problem. I'll take that chance every day. And again, it's because we're trading for a project. How many more projects do we need?
Yeah,
like
true.
At the end of the day, how many more projects do we need? So we need somebody that is going to be solid, is going to play every night, and that like is under and cost control at the same time too. So that's why if I'm going to trade for somebody from Buffalo, well, honestly, number one would be Rasmus Dahlin. Number one.
I would agree with that.
But I don't think he's going to be available until the offseason, if he's available, because I think like last year there was rumors, there was stories swirling around that he went into the management's office and said, "Listen, I need to know where this thing is going because it's not been going well." So I think that's more of an offseason move. If there is going to be a move with Dahlin, like if Buffalo flounders again, like right now, look, they won 2 in a row, great for Buffalo. Let's see if you can keep it up because the first 3 games were really ugly. So we'll see, because that's why. Because I don't want Danny to make a trade for Byram and then like in the offseason Dahlin's available. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so again, I think we would have the assets to probably do both eventually, even if he does, but still, Power I wouldn't mind. 1-for-1 Owen Power for Owen Tippett. I do it. I'll do that any day, every day. And if I have to give a little bit extra, fine, but like not like a crazy amount more.
Yeah.
So him for me, it makes more sense. He's making I think 8-point-something million. He's like low 8s, but he's signed for the next like few years. So at least, and he's more consistent. He's just been more consistent than Byram. So at least I know what I'm getting. And this is a guy like at worst case, you pair him with a Jamey Drysdale. So that, and then you keep Sanheim and York together. Now you have two really legit pairings. So for me, if there's one guy I target on Buffalo, it's Power. But I think personally, I think Buffalo is just looking to get rid of Byram. So we'll see there. Jamey brings up Quinn Hughes. I think it is a possibility. Because yeah, look, there's that whole rumor where they say like, look, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. At the same time, you have to understand that Luke Hughes is also a defenseman. Luke Hughes is also projected to be like a star defenseman. Maybe not as good, like as good as Quinn, but they're different style of players. Also, Quinn's smaller. He's more shifty. He's like more offensive. Where Luke, he's more of like he has big time offensive potential. Maybe not as big as Quinn, but he's bigger. He's better defensively. So, can you have two of those? Like, can you have both of them playing on the same team? Like, where the minutes gonna go? That's my concern. So maybe my like theory is maybe if he doesn't want to play with his brothers, he'd like to play closer to his brothers. So which would put either Islanders, Rangers, and us in that mix. And you know, I think we have the assets to actually trade to Vancouver to get a Quinn Hughes. I think it's probably going to cost you at least one of Drysdale or York. I think one of them has to go because
for sure.
Vancouver's going to want a defenseman in return. So, but again, we're talking about Quinn Hughes. Like, go.
No defenseman. You're getting him.
Yeah. So look, and I don't know if you heard, but like Pinata, because with all the things that was happening with Andre, he was like speculating that like San Jose would be a team that would be interested in Emil Andre. But again, I think like Andre hasn't made that much of an impact yet in the league where you're going to get like an established player for him. It'll probably be prospect for prospect. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, Tippett is, especially the way he's playing now, Tippett is one of our biggest assets that of luxury, let's say, because we have Martone coming, because we have like Grobenkin playing on a fourth line that he should be playing a little higher up, and we have Bump that's coming, Barkey that's coming. We have so much depth on the wing that the Flyers right now need to not like maybe right now, but like we need to trade from a position of strength to address other needs. And defense, personally for me, I think is a bit one of our bigger needs. We need at least a guy to cement that top four because, like, look, as much as I like Nick Seeler, at the end of the day, he's probably best suited on a third pair. So yeah, and even maybe possibly getting a center, which I doubt. And that's why I see like a lot of like Luchenko in some mock trades, but I saw him mostly on like a Dahlin mock trade. But like, unless you're getting a center back, you're already that like our center pool is not. It's getting better now, like with Luchenko, with Nesbitt, and a couple other guys, but we don't have any legit number ones coming, and like Nesbitt's maybe 2-3 years away. If you trade away Luchenko, like now you're really putting our center position back a couple of years. So unless you're getting a center back in the if you're trading away Luchenko, or at least sign a center in free agency, but like look what's happening right now. Everybody's fucking signing. You're not going to get anybody in free agency.
Free agency is not going to be as big as everyone first thought. That's for damn sure.
No, and look, I'm not saying this because I think Luchenko is going to be like a 90, 100-point player. I'm just saying this because if you minus him from the equation, where are talented centers? Because look what Tocchet's doing with Zegras. He's like, he calls it a hybrid. So maybe he's not a legit center. We see it with Couturier. Couturier is slowing down. I'm sorry, but like he had that one good game against Florida. The rest of the games, he's not been great. Dvorak is at best a third line center, and that's if we re-sign him. Cates, like Cates is playing great, but again, is he even a second line center? He's what? Like I joke that he's one C Noah Cates, but like I see it, but she's like I'm not being serious here. Like so, that's one thing I just want to say. Like if the Flyers are making trades, we just got to be careful who we trade away because you really don't want to weaken a certain position, especially when you know that in free agency it will not be addressed.
So here's my take. This trade, they are going to have to inevitably, because you mentioned it not just a moment ago, It doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't even have to be this season. But by the latest, this next upcoming offseason, they have to move one of their wingers. They don't really have much of a choice. As you mentioned, they have a plethora of talent there already. You have Konechny already signed for long term. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. His extension just started this year. Owen Tippett still has another 6 years. Matvei Michkov is due for an extension. He'll probably get extended this upcoming offseason. Tyson Forster just got a bridge deal. He's due for another pay raise. You know they're not letting him go anywhere. Bobby Brink, he's due for a pay raise this upcoming offseason. And then you talk about who's coming. Porter Martone. You have Nikita Grabenkin already technically here. Alex Bump, Denver Bark. You have so many wingers, and that's not even mentioning the guys they just drafted. Murta, who is at a BU. Vansagi is a winger. He's on the way soon. They have a lot of guys who are going to be either here or pushing for a spot. Realistically, they may need to eventually even need to move 2 of them, but at the bare minimum, at least 1. Because Porter Martone, more likely than not, will be starting in the NHL next year unless if he has a rough camp. And I don't see that happening. He was picked 6th overall for a reason. He's looked as the 3rd or 4th highest talented winger in this, 3rd or 4th most talented player in the draft, not the winger. He was the most talented winger in this upcoming draft that we just had. But the 3rd and 4th most talented player overall. There's a much better chance than not he ends up playing here next year. But with that being said, they're going to likely have to move one of these guys by the latest next offseason. And they're going to have to put this into consideration. As you mentioned, they're going to have to address a position of need. I think right shot defenseman is definitely a big one. Some guys that I've mentioned. Now, obviously, not all of these guys fit the need, but the guys in Buffalo, as we talked about, Owen Power, Bowen Byram. I do want to bring up this part of the piece, too, with Byram as well. I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong one. The defense, when it comes to Byram, the Sabres, as mentioned, have 3 pieces that would garner loads of interest. Byram, Dahlin, and Power, as you and Jamey just mentioned, all on the younger end of things. Now, I think all 3 are left shot guys, if I remember correctly. So while that would be a big addition to the back end, you still have a bit of a hole in the right shot because we don't know when Rasmus Ristolainen, he's a right shot, I believe, Risto. So that was the big reason why they originally acquired him. So whenever he comes back, you may have a fill in there. So it might not be as big of a need, but there's also talks that they may still try to move Rasmus Ristolainen in this upcoming trade deadline, which could leave that hole again. Another name that has not been mentioned with a team that you have done some work with in the past. Now, mind you, there are some issues with the guy I'm about to mention. Number one, he's on an expiring contract. So you're going to have to feel 100% confident that you're going to be able to acquire this individual. And number two, he's a little bit older than most of this core, but he's still on the younger end. The guy I'm thinking of is Rasmus Andersson out in Calgary. Only just turned 29. He's still in the prime of his career. He was a guy that was talked about quite a bit in trade talks this offseason, and Calgary didn't end up moving him. And you just made a deal with Conroy not too long ago, sitting Farabee and Frost over there. You have some trading history with Calgary. Now, mind you, as I just mentioned, the big risk with him, he is a right shot defenseman. That's a big plus. But the big risk with him is you need to make sure that you're going to sign this guy. You're taking a big risk as him being a rental. But that is a name I have a little bit of interest in, even with that name of bit of risk. If you feel confident enough that this guy would want to sign here, that is a name that I have some interest in. It's Rasmus Andersson. Only 29 years old, so age isn't that big of a factor yet. You can lock this guy up, maybe in free agency, and say, hey, listen, we got a plethora of cap. We want you here. We want you part of the core. Maybe you can talk a guy like that into signing here. As we mentioned, the Buffalo guys, another interesting name is there's a certain individual that Jamey just mentioned, Quinn Hughes. Who knows? I don't know how realistic he is you made an interesting point that maybe he wants to play closer with his brothers than with his brothers, and the potential logjam in New Jersey. What would a potential trade package for a guy like Quinn Hughes look like? Are you sending probably a defenseman? Obviously, one of Drysdale or York would likely be involved. You're probably going to have to send another player on top of that. That's a roster player. Maybe it costs you Drysdale and Owen Tippett. And then maybe you have to move some pick compensation as well. It's going to take a haul to get this guy. So if you're getting him, again, that's a guy, I'm not making that move unless if it's a sign and extension in the offseason. That's a guy that isn't going to, I sound like Chris Collinsworth. Listen to me right now. Holy shit. Here's a guy. But that's a guy that I feel like is more likely to be an off-season move than a here and now move after July 1st, because that's the type of guy you're going to need to make sure is a sign and extension that you can't risk losing. So with that being said, I think the Buffalo guys, as we have mentioned here, are a little more realistic. I would love Owen Power. I think there's so much raw potential here, and he brings size. Yes, I know it has been emphasized that he is soft for his size, but I feel like that's something that can be coached. Yeah. Look at what we had prior to this year in Bradshaw, who pretty much rejuvenated guys like Rasmus Ristolainen, Jamey Drysdale, and Travis Sanheim, all to take next steps in their development to become better defensemen than they are today. Now, Jamey still hasn't hit that offensive plethora that we've been looking for, but defensively, he has been so much more sound. And I feel like that a guy like Todd Reardon could do some work with a defenseman like Owen Power. That could really potentially bring out the best of him. 6'6" defensemen with that type of size don't come available that often. 6'6", 226. You add that to your decor, and you can teach him to play with his body a little bit more that he needs to do. You're talking about a situation that makes his team a lot more intimidating in the blue line to play against. Because Sanheim's not a small guy. I mean, he could play a little more with the size, but he's not small. So you got now, and then if you do keep Ristolainen, that's a we'll see. Imagine a decor with Rasmus Ristolainen, Nick Seeler is your back pairing, Jamey Drysdale with maybe, well, you know what, I'd probably say Ristolainen would probably be on the second pair whenever he's healthy with Drysdale. And then maybe a Nick Seeler with like, then one of Sanheim, York, or Power goes on the third pair. Maybe, you know what, maybe Drysdale and Seeler could be a third pair. Power and Ristolainen could be your second pair, or maybe even move Sanheim down in the second pair with Ristolainen again, because they've had some chemistry in the past, and then maybe have like a Power and York first pair. That's a really good blue line if you can make that work, especially from a physicality standpoint, because Sanheim has some size, Power has a lot of size, and Sealer's a shot blocking defenseman, and then you also have Oliver Bonk on the way soon too. So suddenly your blue line looks a little bit better once healthy. So those are guys I definitely would be interested for moving Owen Tippett. Do you move Owen Tippett right now? Probably not. I feel like a move like this is more susceptible for the trade deadline, but we'll see. Anything else you want to add, Eric, before we move on to our final topic?
No, but just to touch on what you said, just briefly. I don't expect the Flyers to make a trade anytime soon. This is going to be like, if it's for a guy with term, it's maybe by the trade deadline, maybe. But in all honesty, I think we're looking probably in the offseason.
I agree. We'll see, though. Stuff like that can materialize in the blink of an eye. You didn't see the Frost Farabee trade coming last year when it did, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, but so also, like I said,
our final topic before we predict next week's games.
No, but just quickly, like I said, Byram. If they want to trade, he's the one guy I could see them to trade for him now. But if they do it now, I don't think it's going to involve Tippett. I think this is going to be more of like packages, like maybe another forward, like a lesser forward and a draft pick. That in that case, I do it now. But honestly, I think for Danny, just the way Tippett is playing right now, like I don't trade him 1-for-1 for Byram right now. I wait.
Interesting. Honestly, who knows? That might be something. I think you got to see how the season plays out because you're not doing that trade probably right now, especially with how well Tippett has been playing. Him being one of the few only forwards that have been playing consistently well, unless if you want to try to sell the fans on selling high, but we'll see.
Like just quickly, like I just thought this just popped in my head. Let's say Buffalo calls and says, you know what, he's a bit undersized, but they have a couple undersized wingers. But let's say they say Bobby Brink and Toronto's first from in 27 or something like that, and like a third for Byram, like right now today. Like I'd make that trade.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But see, like that's the kind of package I think right now, if it was presented to Danny, he'd like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Yeah. But if it's like no, if Adams is calling Byram, he's like, okay, let's do Tippett for Byram 1-for-1, then I think that it goes click
right down the toilet. All right. With that being said, let's move on to our final topic of the day before we predict next week's games. We're not going to have as much time as I thought to get on this, but let's do it anyway.
Let's go. Who cares?
Flyers lines. So there's been the first line, as we all know, has been struggling to start the year. Outside of Couture's big breakout game in the third game of the year, all three of them have been relatively quiet. Michkov's only got one goal. I think TK's what 2 assists. He's still looking for his first goal. Couture has 5 points, but again, a little misleading when 4 of them came in 1 week.
4 in 1 game.
With that being said, what's your take on the lines? What's your take on Tocchet's just system in general right now? Benching Michkov, not holding the same accountability to Konechny. How would you change the lines currently right now? I know we talked about the lines last week, but I feel like it's something we need to readdress. Because it has really been a topic of conversation, especially after these last 2 games.
No, like look, the Tocchet system right now, like whatever, like it is what it is. We just gotta get used to it, and I think the players themselves are still getting used to it. So I don't think I don't think he's running a bad system. Yeah, look, is it super exciting hockey? Is it run and gun hockey? No, it's responsible, solid hockey. But I think like just eventually when the players start actually understanding the system and like producing at the level they should be producing, I think you'll see the shot count go a little bit up, and we'll see a bit better play. Because look at it this way, like yeah, we're not taking that many shots, but we're also not allowing that many shots. We're not getting killed. We're not getting killed in the shot count, even though like look, the Winnipeg game, I said we only shot 17, but we only allowed 15 against Minnesota. Yeah, we only got 21, but they had like I think it was 18 or something. We outshot them. So
16 actually.
Yeah, there you go, 16.
That's 15 and a half shots in the last 2 games. That's on a glass half full perspective.
But now, getting back to the lines quickly, like the Brink line, the Brink Cates Forcer line is going. They're going. The Zegras line is actually playing really well. That first line, they're just way too inconsistent. Like they've been out of like fourth line aside, out of the 3 top lines since game 2, because game 1 they were different, the lines. Since game 2, I think 3 out of 4 games by advanced stats, they were the worst of the 3 lines. Like only the second Florida game, or is that they were the better line. Only that Florida game because Couturier went off and like I don't. Anyway, so I don't know. Like if you like the only thing I would try if Tocchet really doesn't want to break up the Cates line, I would swap Michkov and Tippett. Put Tippett on the top line, have him flip with Konechny, put Konechny back on his natural side on the right. We know Tippett can play the left. So put Tippett on the left, put Konechny back on the right, and move Michkov down to the Zegras line. Because at least this way, maybe Michkov will get going, TK will get going, because that first line is not working. As much as you want to put them out there, hoping it's going to work, it is not working. There's something that's just not clicking there. Maybe it's this new system, and they're just not. Maybe that's not the right mix of players to have on that line for this type of system, but it's not working. We got to shuffle it up. Yeah. And look, and I'm just going to touch a little bit on the Michkov benching. I perfectly understand that Michkov is not playing well. He's not. I'll say it, he's not. But Konechny's not playing well either. Couture's played one good game. Okay? But yet, we're benching Mishkov. Like, the last 4 minutes of last night's game, I don't know if you noticed. I noticed in the last 4 minutes. So I don't know how long it was maybe going before. Basically, Tocchet was rolling two lines. He was rolling the Cates line, and he was rolling Couture's line with Tippett on it. So basically, he removed, and for like the last 4 to 5 minutes, it was just one line got on, one line got off, one line got on, one line got off. So Mishkov was the one being benched. When again, and look, I get it. Talk is probably one of those coaches where like I'll never bench my veterans, or like it's gonna take a lot to bench my veterans. But like, come on, at a certain point, man. Like, come on. Like, okay, fine. The last 4 or 5 minutes, you're trying to protect the lead. You're trying to get at least 1 point, get it to overtime. Fine, I understand. Fine. But then you start overtime and you put Coots and TK together, and Mishkov doesn't see a shift. That bothered me. I'm sorry. That bothered me just because there's no way in hell that TK was playing better than Mishkov that game. There's no way in hell that TK has been playing better than Mishkov the last 3-4 games. It's no. And I'm sorry. I understand he's a veteran, but at a certain point, you have to be like, you have to hold the players accountable for what they're doing. And a player like Mishkov that we have, and the Flyers have a lot of like invested in, and he could be like the superstar of the future. You don't want to start already, especially talking that signed a 5-year contract. You don't want to start alienating this guy.
Agreed.
He's going to see this. He's going to be like, yeah, but I don't understand. Like, Tiki's been playing just as bad as me, but yet I'm the one that's getting benched, and he doesn't miss a shift.
Mm-hmm.
So where's like,
it's about consistency. Yeah,
that's it. That's the word. It's not consistent. You want to bench players? Fine, bench players that are not playing. Yeah, I'm going with the guys that are moving. Yeah, but TK's just isn't moving either. I don't get it. And again, like, I understand, like, the last 5 minutes, you wanted to like shorten your bench just so that you could protect the lead. Okay, and that's why I get Couture was there. But Zegras has been one of your better players also. Like with Dvorak as well. Like Dvorak is he's a shutdown machine. Why not then roll 3 lines and just sit the 4th line? Because the 4th line was just doing nothing at all. And that's another thing. The 4th line, I'm sorry, but like Luchenko and Grabenkin have to be back in next game because they were okay. They did what they had to do. Like Delory got into a fight, and like again, was it a fight that really was necessary? There was nothing going on in that game. Like that to me was just a staged fight. Like, okay, you want to go? Okay, let's go. We'll see what happens. You know, like, was that necessary? And like they produced nothing offensively. There was zero pressure from them offensively. So I'm sorry, but like, we want to score goals. Let's put the best players available to score goals. And look, at the end of the day, we won the game. Beautiful goal by Cates. It was great. But like, this is starting to become like really concerning.
So here's my take on everything. I 100% agree with you on your Konechny take for sure. If they're going to keep that, let me start with this. If they're going to keep that line together, you need to do what the fuck you did last year and swap the fucking wingers. Because Konechny, he looks terrible on the left side. Terrible. Mm. Ever since they made this line together, Konechny has been a friggin' black hole on the left wing position. And it's a reason why Anthony DeMarco came out earlier this month and said that Konechny does not want to play the left wing. It obviously doesn't work for him. And that's what they've been doing. They put Mitchkov on the right, Konechny on the left. Now they're both natural right wingers, which I get. But last year when the Coots, TK, Mitchkov line was succeeding, Mitchkov was on the left, TK was on the right. At least go with what worked back then if you're going to keep that line together. Now, mind you, I want to break this whole damn line up in general because TK and Mitchkov have not been playing well off of each other. I know last year they did towards the end of the year, but I think that was a little misleading just based off of the way that system changed with Brad Shaw taking over, and it was only a 9-game sample size. But if you look 5v5, they have not been playing that good, even dating back to last year, just as a general whole. Their power play picked it up towards the end of last year, if you remember correctly. Mm-hmm. So let's look at the big picture here. I know how much everyone loves that third line. Brink, Forster, Cates been the definition of consistency. It's obviously been their best line. It's been their best line dating back to last year. I am not letting the third line, even though they're playing good, stay together if it means the top two lines are going to keep having issues. Now, the second line hasn't been as bad as the first. Mind you, the second line
they've been good.
Better more than not. Zegras and Tippett seem like they click together. What the hell is Dvorak doing there? Can we stop trying to put Dvorak as your second line left wing? Like, I like the guy. I don't mind him, but at this point, unless Zegras and Michkov are his two specific line mates, that is the only way I want to see Dvorak on that line. Then I want him in the bottom six. No disrespect to the guy, but this guy doesn't even have a 40-point season in his career. He should not be in your second line consistently. He is a face-off specialist, bottom sixer, penalty kill guy. And I've heard this from Montreal fans. He doesn't feel that comfortable on the wing either. That's something that has been talked about enough. He is more of a guy down the middle than on the wing. He does not feel comfortable there. With that being said, this is what I would do for lines. I'm breaking up the third line. It is time. We need to at least experiment a little bit and see what we can get mustered for some potential confidence. I'm going to put Michkov with Cates and Forster. My first line, Tyson Forster, Noah Cates, Matvei Michkov. I want to try it. I want to at least I have been begging Forster and Michkov to play together for the longest time. I want to see how those two work. I know Tyson Forster, again, is a natural right winger, but again, he's at least shown success on the left side over the last year. So why not try that? Forster, Cates, Michkov. Cates continues to play a legit two-way game. He's mini Coots. He's mini Coots of what Coots was in his prime. Your second line. Let's go with this. Grabenkin, Couturier, Konechny. Let's try it. Let's try it. I have no issue trying this. Grabenkin deserves an opportunity to play with some legitimate talent. Couturier and Konechny seem like they work half decent together. They have.
Yeah.
They have shown it. But I do at Couturier and Michkov, even though Couturier is a little bit on the slower side and slowing down, as you mentioned, those two have shown some level of consistency with each other. I don't think TK and Michkov have. So with that being said, I'd like to see a Grabenkin, Couturier, Konechny line and just see how that would work. Grabenkin at least showed some sparks at some time. If not that, maybe a Grabenkin, Zegras, Konechny line. I'd be happy with either of those. The third line, you kind of alternate whether it's Couturier and Zegras. If not, you can try a line of, I'm trying to find the right way. Maybe Tippett, Zegras, Brink. Why not that? Tippett and Zegras have shown they have been working well together. And Bobby Brink plays bigger than his size indicates. And he's actually played good this year. I think you reward a guy like Bobby Brink playing with Trevor Zegras and Owen Tippett. If you're going to keep Zegras and Tippett together, they've shown some flashes together. Zegras is raving about Tippett at the end of the game last night, saying he is the fastest guy he's ever played with. And he is. He's quick.
Oh, yeah.
He's damn quick. He's had bursts left and right, and he's shown flashes where he can do incredible things with the puck. And, one of the things that I have stated that I was afraid of with Zegras and Tippett is that both puck first possession guys. Now, that isn't shown to be that much of a hiccup. I don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing with Zegras and Tippett, but if it's working, keep it together for the time being. I would like to see how those three guys play together. If you want to move that as your second line and the Grabenkin, Couturier, Konechny line as your third line, if you want to flip-flop the two, I'm fine with that as well. I feel like the first line is the first line, and second and third line is like a line 2A, 2B, because that can be looked at as either or. And then the fourth line, it all depends what you're going to do with Luchenko. If you're going to keep him here, I go Luchenko down the middle, Hathaway in the right wing. I feel like I'm missing someone. And Dvorak at the left wing.
Yeah, Dvorak.
And Dvorak at the left wing. Or if you want to flip, the thing is, I want to give Luchenko an opportunity to succeed, but it's a little difficult with the way the lineups are set right now. Unless if you want to move Couturier back down to the fourth line, and you know how he took that with Tortorella, not well. So it's a bit of a logjam right now.
No.
If you're going to keep Luchenko in the lineup, that's the way you got to do it, unless you want to move Couturier down to the fourth line. And I would be, if Couturier feels comfortable about doing that, I would be open with a Grebenk and Luchenko Konechny line, because Konechny is an offensive shoot first guy, and Grebenkin battles amongst the boards, does all the physical battles for you. And we've seen Luchenko; he's obviously a pass first guy who can skate well. So you kind of got three different styles of players right there. That would be something interesting too. But realistically, I think they keep Couturier on the line 2A, as I'm going to call it. And then maybe try 2B as what I mentioned with Tippett, Zegras, and Brink. Because I don't feel like this team, like I said, has a third line. It's two second lines that are kind of like 2A, 2B-ish. But that's how I would go with the lines.
No, but look, I can see with the players that we have right now on our roster, with the offensive players that we have, I think we have the talent and we have the players that we could put up a lineup kind of like Seattle did 2 years ago, where they just had really solid players on every single line. They rolled 4 lines and they made the playoffs that way, and they even beat Colorado that way in the first round. But the thing is, and I know he doesn't want to do it. I know he doesn't, but you have to break up that third line to spread the wealth, because it's not working. Your first line is not working. Your fourth line has to have Luchenko and Grebenkin, because when you have A-balls, when you have Abels, and when you have a Delory in there, they produce nothing. They produce nothing. So, like, we have the players. We have the players to do it. That's why I think with the centers that we have, we're better off kicking Cates back to the wing. And I know he's playing really well at center, but the way he plays, his style of play, it's not that that style could translate onto the wing. He could forecheck. He could get in front of the net. He could play physical. You could put that on a left wing. You could put that like with a Zegras and a Mishkov. And those are the lineups I put up at the beginning of the season. I thought that would be a crazy good line. Having Mishkov on the right, having Cates on the left, and having Zegras in the middle. Cates could be that defensively responsible player, kind of the way like Dvorak is right now on the Tippett Zegras line. But I think Cates gives you that little extra that Dvorak doesn't. So and Luchenko, before we can even make an informed decision on this guy to send him back or not, you have to play him higher up in the lineup. You can't just have him on a fourth line playing 8 minutes. If you move Cates to the wing, that leaves a center spot open. You put Luchenko in that 3C spot. Give him 12 minutes a game. Give him 13 minutes a game and see what he can do. Because honestly, like, look, yes, the last game against Winnipeg, he didn't play as well as the previous 2 games. Fine, granted. And again, I'm going to bring up this point. Nobody did. Everyone was asked that game. Everybody was asked. So what? We're gonna sit this kid because, hey, listen, you turn the puck over, that caused the goal. Yeah, but at the same time, you had fucking Jamey Drysdale, Nick Seeler, and I forget who the offensive player was, standing one right beside each other with Nemestikov right behind them. Nobody picking up this guy. But yet it's Luchenko's fault. Like, come on, guys. Come on. Like, let's get serious here. So
what a rant.
You have to play him at center, give him a third line spot, like I said, put Tippett on his wing. I want to see Luchenko, Tippett, and Brink. For me, that's my ideal third line. I think they bring speed, they bring grit. And again, this is your third line. You're gonna play them against third line competition. I think they could devour other third lines. Yeah. So and again, Forrester, Coots, TK, top line, great defensively, could shut down top lines because you have Coots and Forrester's defensive acumen. Plus, you have TK that will be on his natural side that can go take that the offense can be put on his back for that line. Bro, do whatever you want. Don't worry. Me and Forrester got this covered. Just go do what you want. Take shots, whatever. And then your second line, like I said before, Zegras, Cates, and Zegras, Cates, and Mishkov. Like, and then obviously your third line would be Dvorak, Hathaway, and Grebenkin. Again, another solid line. But because they refuse to break up that third line, And again, I understand there are like I think out of 5 games, 4 out of 5 they were our best line. I get it. But at the same time, you're hurting the other lines. You're hurting them. So like what? We'd rather keep one line together, and any given game, the top line is just gonna dog it or just not good. And the fourth line, when you have Abels and when you have Deloria there, are producing absolutely nothing. So you're running 2 lines? Like, come on. Let's get serious.
All righty. Jamey has rejoined us, by the way. So perfect timing as we go into next week's game, our final topic of the day. Flyers have 3 games next week. I think I got all 3 last week, if I remember correctly. How did you guys do?
I went 2 for 1.
2 for 1?
I called 3. I called 3 wins. I called 3 wins last week. I got 2.
Jamey, I don't think you made it. I don't know if you made a prediction last week, Jamey. I'll have
No, but I probably would have went 1 and 2 anyway.
Yeah, I'll put that as 3 ties for you. All right, so let's go.
I definitely would have lost last night because I didn't have them beating the Wild at all. Especially after getting obliterated the night before. I definitely wouldn't have taken the Flyers. I thought they would have came out and pretty pissed off. But one thing I didn't realize over the course of the as the game wore on, the announcers did a great job. Minnesota's so effective on the power play; they're not very effective on 5-on-5 this year. Before last night, they had 9 goals on the power play.
Yeah, I think only like 2 5-on-5 or something stupid like that.
Yeah, it was like a goal or 2, and that included last night's game. So yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy how effective their power play is. Though the Flyers, escaped taking penalties.
Yeah, hey, Minnesota came into that game with a 43-point-something% power play. Yeah, and we shut them down. We went 3 for 3 on the PK. Yeah.
Well, I credit Vladar for a lot of that anyway. He made some point-blank saves. He wasn't the busiest, but on the power play, he made some really testers, I thought anyway.
And by the way, Boyum sucks.
He did not have I will say Boyum looks good on the power play for Minnesota, though. There's a reason why they're the number 1 power play in the league going into that game.
Yeah.
But let's move on to next week's game. So they got 3 in total again, starting off with a game tomorrow night at home against the Kraken to wrap up their 4-game homestand. Then they are heading on the road at Ottawa. First road game time, and then they go on another homestand and end the week with a matinee against the Islanders of Long Island. Jamey, let you start. What do we got for the week?
1 and 2. I have them losing tomorrow to the Kraken. They should beat Ottawa, but Ottawa's one of those teams, man, that's missing Brady Tkachuk. Sometimes when you miss your best player, sometimes it pumps up the rest of the team. The Flyers should go in there and win single-handedly. But I have them losing Ottawa, and I also have them beating the Isles. I think Vladar comes back strong against New York. I just think that the offense is just so darn inconsistent right now. You don't know who, is coming out. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with Dan Vladar, although he's definitely outshined, Sam Gerson here. I just don't think he could continue. He's just playing so damn good. I just can't see that continuing week after week.
Yeah.
And,
how about you, Eric?
And I'm not saying he's going to have a bad game, but 2 goals like tomorrow, I think they lose like something like 2-1. The next night, the next game, I see them losing like maybe like 3-2, and then beating the Isles.
Okay. How about you, Eric? What do we got?
Oh, good question. I think because Seattle is like surprisingly decent to start the season. They haven't lost a game in regulation.
No, they're 4-0-1. Their only loss was in overtime against Montreal, and they almost won that game too. They crapped their pants in the final minute, if I remember correctly, or minutes.
Yeah, well, here I have them 3-0-2. So I think
3-0-2. What? I thought they were 4-0-1 for some reason. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so that's gonna be an interesting game. I think we beat. I think we beat Seattle. I think we could do it. We rain on their parade. We give them their first loss. I don't know if they're playing before us, but I have to look at the schedule. But so yeah, no, I think we beat Seattle. Ottawa is struggling a bit to start the season. and I actually picked them. I'm a big Ottawa supporter, so I'm very surprised. But look, a lot of injuries are really setting them back. But there's a good chance I'm going to be at that game, so most probably the Flyers are going to lose because that's what seems to happen every time I go watch the Flyers.
Oh,
And look, the Islanders are pretty much what I predicted the Islanders to be. Like, not that great of a team, but pretty much competitive, but their window is not open yet. So I think we beat the Islanders. So I think we go 2-1 this week.
I'm gonna go with the same exact results as you, Eric. I also have us 2-1. I think they beat Seattle in an ugly, high-scoring game. I think Erson gets the start and they win 5-4 in overtime. Second game against Ottawa, they seem like they never win in Ottawa. I don't know what it is. It seems like it's a house of horrors for them. I'll have them losing that game 4-2. And then I think they go in at home against Long Island and for some reason kick the crap out of them. 5-1 win. Game doesn't even feel that close. I have a feeling they beat them. I think the Isles are very overrated this year. I mean, they're not a lot of people have them high. But I've seen people put them in the playoffs. I don't think that team sniffs the playoffs, especially with how bad the winger core is. I have them beating the Isles 5-1. Even Sorokin's been a little off lately too. But yeah, 5-1. 5-1 win, 2-1 week. Any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just look for consistency from the Flyers forwards. You know what I mean? Like I cut in there late, but I practically pretty much knew what you guys were talking about in terms of rolling lines. In order for the Flyers to be successful, they can only sustain this for so long. They have to run 4 lines. There's no way that you can beat a dead horse and just run 2 lines out there constantly. You shut the last 2 down, 10 minutes left. Like, I get the tactic, but it's early in the season to start this. It's not the latter part of the season. And you're wearing down those lines, and what's going to happen is that they have that Olympic break, and they're going to come back. I mean, they're playing a lot of games here are going to be conjoined. It's not going to be spread out like it is now. You know, a lot of these games are going to be back-to-backs and stuff like that. You cannot beat this dead horse for so long, especially when you factor in practice. Like, the Flyers are only getting like one day off, one full day off a week when you look at it, in the grand scheme of things. You know what I mean? That takes a toll on the guys, too. Look at last week. They had 3 games, and they had one day off, if I'm not mistaken, correct? The full day off was Friday. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I think that with how Vladar has played, you're not seeing the actual team yet. Like, Vladar is just playing out of his mind right now, which is a great thing for Flyers, right? To get the ball rolling. I understand it's a new system. I'm not blaming Tocchet by any means. I'm not just, here being a Tocchet hater or whatever. But, I understand he wants to get his systems down. But you got to run 4 lines. I know they take penalties. That's excluding the penalties because they only committed 3 penalties against Wild last night. So when you factor that in, there were no major penalties taken. That's only 6 minutes of power play time that the Minnesota Wild had. So it wasn't like nights before where it's 5 or 6 penalties, or something of that nature. They didn't really commit too many infractions last night. And I actually thought a few of them were actually a little bit ticky-tack, in my opinion. That was just for me anyway. But nonetheless, they were called. So it wasn't like you can't just blame it, because we were in the box, like they have in games past. So they took too many penalties. That's why the ice time is down. The ice time needs to be spread out, and that includes, I understand. Mafi just isn't playing very well right now. I get it. I understand. He had his ankle injury, and stuff like that. But, I mean, he's been benched now 3 games in 5. At a certain point at the game, he's been benched for 3 games, 3 out of the 5 games. And I'm not beating that dead horse yet, that drum. But what I'm saying is like when you continue to bench him, now you're wearing down somebody else. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. It's early in the season to be doing this. I'm just I hope that they just find some consistency, this week. That's really what I want to see. The goaltending's been phenomenal. So, like I said, Dan Vladar, to me, if the season ended today, he's the MVP. You know what I mean? That's how good he's been, but I just want to see some consistency with the forwards, minus Tippett, because I think he's about the only, him and Tyson Forrester, I'd say, and Noah Cates, those three right there, and I'll include Bobby Brink in there, have probably been, the most consistent forwards.
Eric, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, I have a message for the first line and for actually the power play, which is only 1 for 15 so far this season. And if I may quote System of a Down, wake up!
I love it.
That's good.
I got nothing else to add, gentlemen. So with that being said, that's going to wrap us up. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you all for tuning in today. We'll look forward to next week's episode. And as always, let's go Flyers.